Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners Committee of the Whole for April 7th. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner DeLue?
Here.
Public comment can be made in person or by phone if you're attending virtually. You can call 855-925-2801 and enter meeting code 10748, and then press *3 to join the speaker queue. Callers may request to join the speaker queue at any time before the final public comment period ends today. You'll be permitted to speak during the specific public comment session which you requested to join. Speakers is at the podium. Absolutely. There's a button. Oh, Director Grover is going to help you turn your microphone on.
Right there.
Welcome to you.
Okay. Is that okay now? Okay. Thank you. My name is Steve Cesar, and I'm a U.S. Senator, and I wanted to address something about the Medicaid system. It's just helping the poor, really. And I don't know how these physicians get paid. They never talk about their money or anything. And they've got so many patients that are using Medicaid for insurance to pay for their care. And Medicaid and Medicare is both governmental. And I think we should keep Medicaid. So many people need it. There's some out there that don't have it that need it. And I'd like to have some more humanistic services here in Kalamazoo County, since this is the county board. This is here, yeah. And I like to work with the U.S. government. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Is there anyone else wishing to make a public comment? Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners. I was here maybe in November talking about student vouchers for children under 5 years old. So there's things that have happened recently that inspired me to come. One is a mother that's working at McDonald's. She could only get 30 hours of childcare. So she has to cut her hours. So she can't work 40 hours at McDonald's. Why? I don't know. But I can confirm she works there because I drop her off, her kid off at McDonald's. So it's not that she doesn't want to work. She's not getting the hours. So that's an economic problem. That is a problem I think we all want to avoid. There's another mother. She invited me to her parent-teacher conference because her child was being suspended. She's 4 years old. Now, when she's not with Pete, she's with us. And I'm like, she has to pay when she's with us, out of pocket. So I was concerned about that. So she wanted me to come to her parent-teacher conference. And the mother and I both know she's been suspended maybe 4 times. They admitted to 1 suspension. We asked for paperwork. They didn't have it. We're still waiting on it. What can a parent do? Our policymakers are the ones that can make the difference. We both knew that wasn't true, but we just listened. That's all we could do. So this is a pattern, and I've been seeing it for 15 years. And this is the first opportunity I've been able to speak up about it. So that's about all I have to say. I mean, everything else is just trying to sound articulate about whatever, but I just want you to know what's going on the ground. Another thing that I think about it, when we were recruiting at interfaith homes, there were so many kids walking around, but we were recruiting kids to help them get on DHS. They said they're already on the waiting list, waiting to be called. Their applications are being ghosted. These are very young kids just walking around Interfaith, Alamo, what we used to call New Horizon. We got 3,000 kids and only maybe 1,000 get child care every year. And our illiteracy rate in the fourth grade is extremely high. And this is why. Thank you.
Sir, will you just share your name with us for the minutes? I don't.
Oh, my name is Jermaine Robinson, and I'm with Pre-K International Child Care Center.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Jermaine. Is there anyone else wishing to make a public comment? All right, I'm seeing no others in chambers. Administration, is there anyone online?
Yes, there is, and staff will bring them over in just a moment.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Can you try to speak again? I think that we might be able
Hello?
to. Yes, there we are. Hello, welcome to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. We might
I
have a bit
wasn't
of
sure
a
if I was
lag.
muted or not.
Yes. Can you
Okay.
please share your name and where you're from?
This is,
3 minutes.
yes, yes. This is Lee Christensen. I have Little Hands Montessori Preschool in Richmond, Michigan. I wanted to come in person. I wasn't able to, but I'm honored to have this opportunity and be able to call in. I understand that early childhood dilemmas are on the table, and I know there's a lot of perspectives from different families about funding and hours and availability. DHS. My school is a nonprofit. I have had students come and receive DHS. We work hard and provide large scholarships. So what I'm seeing from my perspective right now, the issue for many families is not funding. I know it is for some, but for a lot, that's not the issue. And it's also not an issue that I've seen in the past of the hours where people need 9 to 5 care. My center actually only cares for children from 8 to 1, 5 days a week. The problem that I'm seeing this year and last year that's new is families not wanting to part from their children themselves, but then also not providing the care that their child needs to stimulate their brain at home. So what I am seeing is families wanting to come. My center has children ages 2.5 through 6 years old. And I have many families that don't want to separate from their children at home, and they bring them to me at about 4.5 years of age, but they haven't done anything with their child at home. They haven't been reading books to them. They haven't been introducing letter sounds or numeracy. And so I am receiving children that are really far behind. And on top of that, the parents want reduced hours. They want to send their children to school for just 1, 2, or 3 days a week. They can't, imagine even 5 mornings, let alone whole days. And I understand these concerns. In the past, it used to be because of safety. They were worried about school violence, or because of COVID, they worried about health. Now that's not the case. They're not worried about those things. They want their kids to play. They have this perspective that school is taking away years from their life, and they want their kids to have a chance to be a kid. And in doing that, they're depriving them of learning opportunities. And most of us know that 80% of everything we know as humans, we learned prior to the age of 6. And so I have a bilingual school too, and parents will tell me, oh, they're too young to learn another language. They're still learning their first. So what I'm seeing is parents restricting their kids from learning, and I'm seeing a lot of delays because of that, and I'm suffering economically because of low enrollment for that reason. Not because people don't want to pay, not because people need more hours, but because people want their kids to be young for longer. They're keeping them home, and they're not educating them at home. And I'm seeing a lapse.
Lee,
Yep.
I want to thank you
Yep.
very much for taking the time to reach out to us for public comment. Your 3 minutes have expired, but I appreciate your perspectives. Please feel free. There's additional public comment later if you would care to share more with us. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? All right, I am seeing none. There's no one else online, Administrator? Okay, thank you. With that, we will end our public comment session for this Committee of the Whole. We'll move to item 3. We'll do our review of accounts payable and payroll disbursements, and we'll welcome our Finance Director, Mr. Ryan Post. Welcome, Director.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Board of Commissioners. This evening, we have an accounts payable claims list totaling $6,688,092.12 is presented for review. Of this total, the Board of Commissioners is asked to approve claims totaling $5,443,214.83. Payroll disbursements totaling $4,763,959.41 are presented for the March 27th general, March 31st elected, and April 15th elected payrolls. That being said, we welcome any questions from the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Director. Commissioners, are there any questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go to item number 4. At this time, we're going to welcome forward Southwest Michigan First and their Road to Regional Prosperity and the 2026 Annual Work Plan. We'll welcome Jill Bland, the Executive Vice President, and Ryle Lukomsky, Economic Development Director. I apologize if I fumbled the name.
You got it.
I got
We'll
it.
get
Very
it.
good. All right.
Riley.
Welcome to you. Welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Southwest Michigan First and our interim CEO, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present and provide you with an update of some of the activities that we've been up to. I'm going to let Rachel get our presentation up here.
Is that good?
I think we need to adjust something. That's not going to work. So we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm Jill Bland, and I head up our economic development team at Southwest Michigan First. And with me today is Riley Lukomsky. Riley heads up our attraction programming, so encouraging new companies to come into the community. Okay, so this is a slide that we now include in almost all of our presentations. It really talks about why do economic development. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail today, but basically provides taxes for all of the service that you see on the right-hand side of this diagram. It also provides jobs for all of the people in the community, as well as the social fabric and philanthropy of the community. So when we bring in a new company, that's kind of the, the pathway that it takes to bring prosperity into the community. Southwest Michigan First operates under the 3 pillars of economic development, workforce development, and community development. And we're going to share with you today, again, some of the areas, some of the projects that we've had take place. So over the past 3 years, we have been working on the path to regional prosperity. Jonas Peterson, our former CEO, was here a couple of times and shared that pathway with you. On the left-hand side, these are some of the main areas of success that we had over the last 3 years. And I just want to highlight a couple of them. So across the region, and I say across the region because this also includes the Ford Blue Oval battery plant. We've had over $3.1 billion of new investment come into the region. And it's really important. Yes, today we're here to really talk about Kalamazoo County, but Kalamazoo County is impacted by all of these projects. And I can tell you, Ford Blue Oval, they have started hiring. They've hired over 400 individuals for the facility. They are starting their training. They are coming from really within a 60-mile radius of that facility. So Kalamazoo will feel the direct impact of that project. The event center under construction, we all see it every day when we drive by. That still is on track to open. K-Reese's new Career Connect Center, that's something that we worked really hard to really develop new pathways for our students in partnership with the businesses throughout the community to make sure that they had voices of what they needed today, what they're going to need tomorrow, and what do they think they're going to need from a talent and skills looking forward into the future. We've deployed over $10 million of grant funding into the community for several community development projects, and I'm going to share with you a couple of them as we go through this presentation. So some specific opportunities that we had. Kalamazoo Outdoor Gourmet. This is a company located in Oshtemo Charter Township. This company had an opportunity to acquire a firm in Canada that did a similar type of business and relocate their manufacturing operations here to Kalamazoo County. And we are pleased to share with you today that they did that. They did an expansion and invested $3.8 million and created 22 new jobs at that facility. CalSec. So CalSec has been in this community for a very, very long time. If you're not familiar with them, they're out on East Main in Kalamazoo Charter Township. CalSec does, they're in the spice industry, but they have just recently completed the expansion of a facility that will have a new grinding facility. So when they bring a plant into the facility, they grind it up to extract the spices out of the plant, as well as the dye, the natural colorings that are in the plant to be used in food grade products and so forth. This facility is a climately controlled facility, so they'll be able to use it year round, and it's an enclosed facility. Previously, it was an open facility, so sometimes if you were driving out on West Main, you probably could smell some of the aromas of the spices. This will cut down on that emission of those types of aromas into the air. Riley's going to share with you our next company.
Yeah, Keystone Solutions Group, which is in Oshtemo Township, they won several large national contract manufacturing contracts this last year, both in sterilized and unsterilized medical kitting. It allowed them to build a new $2.5 million clean room on site, and then also expand into another 30,000 square feet in Oshtemo Charter Township. This comes with an estimated job creation of 55 new jobs over the next few years. And then continuing on down in Portage, Pro Services, a mechanical contractor. The amazing thing about Pro Services project is not only they're going to be looking to create 250 new jobs themselves, but they've opened up Pro University, which will help train industrial maintenance techs for companies all around our region. And this has been one of the largest workforce shortages that we've seen manufacturers have all throughout our region. You know, as their equipment breaks down and the legacy folks who've been on staff to be able to fix them over the years are retiring, kind of ushering in that new wave of folks to be able to do maintenance on site is huge for our region's productivity.
So this is an example of one of the projects when I talked about bringing in state grants. So this Plaza Corp is doing 3 different projects here in the city of Kalamazoo. You'll recognize the former county building in the lower right-hand corner. So that is going to be converted into a boutique type of hotel. It will have some retail in the lower levels of that. The 2 other facilities are enhancements of existing buildings. So this one at 619 Porter on the left of your screen. This actually today, a portion of this building collapsed. It's up on the north side. It's an old industrial building. They're going in and retrofitting that building and modernizing that. So we helped them. They did a transformational brownfield plan, which is a very new tool here in the state of Michigan, as a kind of a combination of project. And then we also were able to secure some RAP grant funding for them from the state.
Another exciting attraction project was Majesty's Animal Nutrition. They're from Redmond, Oregon. They make animal nutritional supplements in the canine and equine space. They relocated here mostly for our workforce talent, around in the animal pharmaceutical space, also in the food and beverage space. So they opened up a new facility on Quality Way in Portage, looking to create 40 new jobs. And then past just job creation projects, we've been working on the sites for where our future job creation projects will go. So through the state site readiness program and our partnership here locally, so the state site readiness SSRP grant from the state and their My Sites program. We have states all throughout the county in Oshtemo Township, Texas Township, Kalamazoo Township, Comstock, Pavilion, Portage, Charleston Township, all with sites under consideration to receive site readiness dollars to advance studies on those sites, such as environmental studies, due diligence studies, geotechnical studies, all in effort to get them properly prepared one day for development.
Okay, we also wanted to talk with you a little bit about talent retention and workforce pipeline. So programs that continue on here in Kalamazoo. So periodically you may hear mix. So mix is really how do we encourage those that are in the design space? So it might be product design, it might be graphic design, the creative individuals that we have in our community. How do we encourage them to stay in the community? And how do we build those relationships so that if there's a transition in the business that they're currently at, there's another business that they're familiar with that they potentially could transition into. This has been a very successful program for us, especially as we've seen kind of the growth and ebb and flow of the furniture industry, of Whirlpool and companies like that throughout the community. We've really developed a network where we've been able to retain that talent and keep them here in the region and in the community. And I'll just throw out on April 30th, we will be up at Western with the MIX program and the Richmond Institute of Design and Innovation, where we will have the students, the companies partner with the students to create new products. So to come up with product development. So the companies go in and celebrate with the senior students on their senior projects. And so it's a pretty neat thing. That's on April 30th from 5 to 7. If you're interested, let us know. Regional talent attraction. So again, as we look at where are we going to draw our future workforce from, in addition to what we grow here, to bring new talent into the community, we have an initiative that we're focusing on kind of the Midwest states to not only bring in new talent, but also to bring home those that have chosen to leave the area to go experience something else, to bring them back home. So each county in the 7 counties in Southwest Michigan, we have a feature for each county, feature videos, information. It's got connectivity to different events that take place in the community, really to just showcase what's going on in the community. Some of the other things, and again, I'm not going to spend too long in the event center, but we also are quite involved with the Kalamazoo County Youth Sports Center. I know a couple of the board members and staff have been involved in this, and we continue to work on this project. And I think are really close to getting it truly off the ground. So we're excited about this. Again, we look at this as an attraction, part of our attraction programming. What are you doing for the youth, and what are you doing for all? US 131, this is a very much a celebrated thing, 30 years or so in the making. We're very excited that this actually came to fruition. We're getting really good feedback from the businesses on the north side and up in the Parchment area that they've had better access to the highway and they're not having to drive through, the downtown area. But now looking out, we've got to look at Mossel and Douglas and kind of what the impact is on that, because we've got a lot more trucks and one of our sites is up in that area. So that's an area we'll be looking at. And then again, as we look at our infrastructure, the Portage Road Corridor at I-94, we're working with the city of Portage and the city of Kalamazoo to do an analysis of that. And then also the Sprinkle Road Corridor from the business loop south to Zion Road on the south. We're looking at potentially how can we slow down the traffic, or it does go quite fast in that Sprinkle Road corridor, and we've had a couple of fatalities as well as with employees going in and out of facilities. So that's an area that we're looking at. How can we make some improvements? So we get involved in a lot of things. Certainly the chamber is a portion of Southwest Michigan First, and so we wanted to just talk with you a little bit. One of the things that we're really working on is this entrepreneurship hub. This is something that is new. We've kind of been fractured. There's a lot of groups out there that serve small businesses at various levels or various pathways along business creation. How do we bring them together and be a little bit more unified in handing a business off to whoever might serve at that next level as a business grows and prosper? So that's one of the things that the chamber has been focusing on and will continue to focus on. So with that, I am going to hand this off to Riley.
Thank you. And I see we're already just a touch over our 10 minutes here, so I'll be brief as we close. But essentially, our 2026 work plan is outlined in our Road to Regional Prosperity strategic plan. Going from the path to regional prosperity to the road to regional prosperity involved one of the most robust planning efforts in our organization's history. We heard from leaders in each of our 7 counties to come together and really kind of define and align where Southwest Michigan First should be playing and what role we should be taking. So the output of the strategic plan was to really kind of break our focus areas into 3: businesses, people, and places, all aligning with the work that we already do throughout our 7 counties and here in Kalamazoo. And just to share our high-level goals for each of these, and 2026 is a part of this, but these are our larger 3-year plans for the strategic action plan. We want to create $2.9 billion of economic impact for our regional economy, mostly through helping the business community grow and expand here, while also continuing to attract additional business here as well. On the people side of things, delivering over 28,000 community leadership opportunities through strategic training programs and events. You saw in our performance earlier that we had organizational highs for both event attendees and community impacts the last 3 years. We want to continue to build off of that and grow it even more. And then finally, places. We want to get the word about Kalamazoo and Southwest Michigan out to the greater Midwest, to the greater United States and beyond. So generating 2.4 million positive impressions of Southwest Michigan through strategic marketing efforts is a huge goal for us.
Okay, and then the last item that we wanted to leave you with was kind of an update on our leadership transition. So as most of you know, Jonas Peterson has stepped down from Southwest Michigan First. Our president, Carla Sonis, she is going to be the interim CEO as our board goes through the process to do a national search for a new leader for the organization. We have contracted with a group to help us with that search so that we can get the top-notch individual to come in and fill that role. So we're very excited. I suspect it will take a couple of months as we go through this process, but we're in phenomenal hands with Carla. So no doubt that you will continue to see us move forward in our work. I actually, one of our new team members made the comment to me yesterday. He was he's like, well, I wasn't sure with the CEO leaving, would everybody slack off? And he says, I'm amazed. He goes, nobody has slowed down in the office. And so that was really cool to him to see that. So with that, we would entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jill. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Kistler?
Thank you, Chair. Jill, great presentation. Riley, nicely done also. It's good that we get this every now and then, just to make sure we don't forget about Southwest Michigan first. It's hard to do that. Question I have, and I'm sensitized because I read an article and I can't tell you, I guess I regarded it as somebody I should pay attention to, but not necessarily from an ultimately responsible source. But it talked about the Michigan Economic Development Corporation at the state level and how they have a history of promising, as they're putting money on the line, 4,000 jobs. And then 3 years later, it turns out 850 materialized, or in some cases, only 85 out of the 4,000 materialized. Do you guys keep track when you get involved in this sort of thing to make sure that either it happens or it doesn't, in which case you take action?
Yeah, no, absolutely, we do. And one of the things that I think you don't hear a lot about, so incentives from the state as well as, incentives from local, there's benchmarks in order to get and maintain those incentives. We have had some companies that reached the benchmark, but then fell short a year later, having to basically pay back a portion of the incentive that they did receive. So there is, the checks and balances on it. Where it might get a little murky is if they're putting money into the soil. So they're extending a sewer line or they're extending a water line, and the state is helping to offset the cost of that because it is in the ground. Now we would look at that. That's helping us get to that next level from a business attraction or perhaps the growth of a different business besides that business. But yes, we do monitor it on a regular basis.
Chair, will you humor me for one more question?
Yes, just as council has advised, so I needed to recognize Commissioner Morales joined the meeting about 4:25. Crunching his note up. Go ahead, Commissioner Gisler.
Yeah, now see if I can remember my question. Yeah, some time ago, and I know I voted against it, but I think it's prospering. I'm talking about Hark Orchids out in the old GM facility.
Yes.
They're doing well, are they not?
Well, unfortunately, we have lost them. And it was because of the global economy. We did lose them. They were bringing kind of that raw ingredient was coming over from Germany. I mean, they were a German-owned company, and so they were bringing their raw materials over. And we did lose them about 8 months. Yeah. 8 or 9 months ago. Their facility is on the market though, and we have had significant interest in the facility, and that is where we are.
That's the one behind
behind Midway.
Facility
yes.
was. Okay.
Yes. It is a very unique facility because it is a clean room type of facility. So from a life science perspective or a plant perspective, it provides us with a very unique opportunity. And we've had quite a few folks looking at it. So, but yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
yeah, we were too.
Vice Chair Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. And first off, let me say thank you for what you guys do at Southwest Michigan First, regionally as well as within Kalamazoo County. It takes sort of a team approach when you're competing with states like Illinois or Texas whose MEDC has a lot bigger coffers than ours does. But one of the things that we're focused on here in Kalamazoo County and this county board is housing. And we talk a lot about the AMI, how do we hit 80% of AMI, 100% of AMI? How do we get those costs up? And I had a conversation earlier today with someone, and he said they were able to put together deals with 60% AMI in Washtenaw County, mostly because the AMI was higher in Washtenaw County. And I think we're tackling this problem specifically with housing from one side of the issue. How do we subsidize the AMI? When there's also the other side, how do we increase our county's AMI to be more representative or closer to what Washtenaws is, more life science, more higher tech buildings? I'm speaking of myself as one sole commissioner, but I'm certainly committed to getting you guys whatever you need within site remediation, whatever sort of thing that can attract high quality jobs, high paying jobs. For instance, if we were to get 1,000 jobs from some company that's paying $15 an hour, I'd rather not have them because that's just going to be subsidization on our part with housing and everything else. If we're not finding a way that we can attract high-paying jobs, we're going to be paying for it on the back end with subsidizing with housing, subsidizing with social services and whatnot. But first off, I appreciate, and anytime, please come to this board, come to me, whatever you need for site remediation, as long as we have that vision of it being a high-paying job, I'm 100% on board.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you very
Great.
much for the
Thank you.
presentation and for your time. Thank you. All right, let's go to item 5. We have other items. First, we will take up a revised conflict of interest form. This is prepared for us by Corporation Counsel. To the podium. Welcome, Counsel.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Madam Chair,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, and Commissioners, and the Administrator. This honorable body and administration has made transparency and more stringent adherence to ethical standards a priority for 2026. This has included ethics training for the Board of Commissioners, the county department heads, and soon, per my office's suggestion, implementation of a biannual ethics training for county authorities and advisory boards. In line with this objective, my office was requested to review the county's required conflict of interest statement for the Board of Commissioners. In an effort to provide a clearer and more adhesive adherence to the state statutes and to the county's bylaws regarding disclosure and incompatible offices, my office has provided a revised disclosure and interest statement for consideration and adoption by this body. To that end, I would like to highlight the various sections of the statement for both you and our county residents who may be watching. Please feel free to interrupt with questions as I go along. First, the applicable state statutes are MCL 15.321 through 15.330, contracts of public servants with public entities, MCL 15.341 through 15.348, standards of conduct for public officers and employees, and MCL 15181 in sequence incompatible offices. Looking at the proposed statement of disclosure form, I'll start with Section A. Section A now defines family and financial interest and financial and contractual interest, whereas before it just said family members, but now we define who is immediate family. Section B now requires a listing of organizations which commissioners are members and serve as a leadership role as so defined within the statement. It's reporting of those requires that you serve as a leadership, not just be a member of those organizations. Section C now comports with MCL 15321 regarding contracts with public servants, regarding the reporting of business interest of commissioners. Section D now requires reporting of interest of immediate family as defined in Section A in business dealings with the family. Section E deals with potential conflicts which may blossom into actual conflicts. That might be that the board may be considering purchase of a property which is near which may benefit a family member from that purchase, even though we haven't made it yet, so the conflict does not yet exist, but at least to put the county on notice that a potential conflict may exist. Section F confirms that commissioners hold no other public office that may conflict with their duties in regards to Kalamazoo County. That's regarding the Incompatible Offices Act. I suppose the best way to explain that is that, for instance, if you decided that you wanted to be part of your local school board where you're located, that's fine, because the question hinges upon what is the relationship between the county and the school board and who can control and who can supervise each other. It's very rare that the counties and the school boards have much in common, so that would be allowed under the Incompatible Offices Act. Section G requires a commitment from the commissioners to recuse and abstain when a conflict occurs. This assumes that conflict of interest should rarely occur when this body is voting. And part of the reasons for that is because, as you know, every time you have to abstain from something, your constituents or your district has no voice in what has taken place. So that's why we want it to be a very rare thing when it does occur. Section H confirms and informs that the conflict of interest statement will be kept by the finance department, as is our current practice. Section I is the certification in which you will sign that document. And then the signature page acknowledges and confirms that you have read and understand the conflict of interest statement and our agreement with it, and will be certified by my office. And that's it, ma'am. Please, I can take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, counsel. So I'm going to just begin with a question. I'm going to go to the section E, other potential conflicts. I just want to talk through from my understanding myself. So other potential conflicts, and this relates to real property interests, outside employment, loans, gifts, services, or additional relationships tied to matters before the county. So I just want to address for myself, and then also to some direction I've heard from you about how abstention should occur. So, for example, I am employed with Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health. This is part of the public behavioral health system. They receive state monies that pass through us to Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health, and they are routinely within the consent agenda. It was a practice of mine when I started on the board to pull those items, to declare that I was an employee of that organization and that I would abstain. And we were directed by counsel that that was not necessary, that I'm not a decision maker on the contracts within that organization. But this language makes me feel that now I am supposed to declare that and abstain, which would be regularly from consent agendas then. And to that further, you've directed that when an abstention occurs, that the member should leave the chambers when that occurs. If we do that, how am I to chair a meeting to know when the vote has occurred? When do I state why I'm abstaining? And how do I know when to return, or what other board members know when to return into dialogue and discussion for additional matters? Thank you, counsel.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In regard to your first point, that advice is still very good advice. What we're finding and what we're doing is that we're looking specifically at whether or not the department you work in at where you work is benefited by the grant rather than just the whole organization. So that's been the trend lately. In regards to the second, the trend lately is that if you do have an interest that you know you have to recuse yourself from, that your presence is still influencing the discussion. This is often seen in gesticulation, nonverbals, and facial expressions. And again, this is a recent trend, and I leave that to this body in order to determine whether or not it's something that they would like to engage in. There was an example in Grand Rapids where there was an item introduced, I believe by the mayor and how they set up, and then he introduced it and he left the room. So again, that's a very recent trend, and that's something for this body to consider as to whether or not it wishes to engage.
Thank you, counsel, and thank you, commissioners, for entertaining as I began the discussion. Do we have other questions on this item? Vice Chair.
Yeah, you cited MCL 15.231 through 230. Most of those talk about appointed officials that do directly report to electeds. Some of those citations are elected officials, but a lot of them are employees of a county or employees that directly report to elected officials, chief deputies, or such. Did those? Are you applying that this would apply to all of those people as well?
No, not at all. Just to the members of this body has that reflect for these purposes under this statement, which is being which is you're being asked to consider.
Okay.
Now, there are other implications which we deal with if they come up, but they haven't come up regarding public officers. For instance, I'm considered a public officer. So I'd have to, if there's something going on where I might have a conflict, disclose that to the administrator.
I guess I would feel comfortable supporting this and voting for this if all of the other appointed officers would partake in this as well. To just have the commissioners do it. And also, it's not attached. I don't see any attachment to our current bylaws with this. Would this be attached or replace our current bylaws, or would our current bylaws also be attached to that?
Madam Chair, your current bylaws provide that you execute the conflict of interest statement annually. What that looks like is this. It need not be part of the bylaws.
So this is just changing what the conflict of interest statement is to this as opposed to that. Okay, I could support this as provided it was done to all officers, not just the.
And can I just say on that point, again, this is a statement because you are elected officials. We as officers, if you will, who serve department heads and things like that as contemplated by the state statute you cited, we are already under obligation to do those things. We're supposed to as part of our jobs and our duties.
With all due respect, we take an oath of office.
Yeah.
We all take an oath of office. So we are also under that obligation as well. To say that only the County Board of Commissioners this would apply to when I don't know, it seems like it's sort of, I guess I'll use the word targeting of County Board of Commissioners when the actual MCL talks mostly about this being about county employees.
That's not my interpretation of the statute, but I can definitely follow up in writing on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any additional questions? Commissioner Kistler.
Thank you, Chair. I guess this shows my ignorance, but that's something you're all familiar with anyway. I serve on county advisory boards. Are those to be included? For instance, the Older Adult Services Advisory Council. Obviously, if I owned an old folks home or something, I would imagine that would be important to know. But are those kinds of involvements as board members of some of our advisory boards included?
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, those are already considered within the statement. Remember, the statement is a broad statement in terms of how it addresses what the county businesses is and how you interact with those businesses when a conflict occurs. So this already does take into account that you may serve as members by your seat here, members on advisory boards also. And maybe I'll say it this way. You already serve as liaisons per board bylaws on certain advisory boards. So this covers that already. Thank you.
Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. And this may be my ignorance as well as I climb down a rabbit hole. So if I am, say, part of a commission that we have and someone on that commission is attached to different entities asking us for monies, how does that work? I wish I could be more clear without calling things out. So the conflict of interest for me, I'm on some boards where folks own or have 501c3s that they're on their board. The 501c3 is connected to them. They also I'll say I work for Kalamazoo Valley. We're under a 501c3, and then I'm abstaining from a vote, but that money still goes, and the person that's actually on that board is the CEO of the 501c. Do they have to sign this as well? Does that pertain to them?
No, ma'am. This is strictly related to county disclosure. I understand what you're saying in that scenario, but that's outside the scope of what this statement is and what the county can do. Because I hear you saying that it's an outside organization that's not part of the county.
No, it's a county entity. Yes, but they're receiving county dollars and that. So it makes me feel like I'm on the board and I have Morales LLC, 501c enterprises, and I get monies, and I'm supposed to exclude myself from that?
Yes, ma'am.
So how am I supposed to get the money from my 501c? As everybody, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm going down a rabbit hole because this is common. And then when you talk about is it immediate family all the way through for making it known if properties like in section A, or are we just talking about immediate? Because I mean,
As you look in section A, just in section A,
Mhm.
whatever and it's the immediate family, that's
I see the immediate
husband,
family
wife,
here.
I believe it extends all the way to grandparents. I'm sorry, I gave you all my copies. My apologies for that. I thought I
Okay. No, I see all of that.
Oh, thank you.
I thought it was somewhere else on here. Oh, immediate family. Never mind. Okay. So for instance, when we voted to supply Kalamazoo Valley with funding for their trade center, that was an instance where I did not have to abstain because I'm the director of wellbeing and thriving, and I could have voted on that.
Would be my recommendation, in my opinion. Yes, you know, because your direct division did not. You did not benefit from that directly. And so that is a determining factor, which the cases have borne out.
And historically, haven't individuals on this board received funding from the county board for different projects or entities that they had? And if that's the case, if that's still happening through contractual agreements that I may not know, that Monte's owns something and the money is going to me, is.
And Madam Chair, I think you underscore the importance of the disclosure, because that's something we could look at to determine, because you should have if you had disclosed that, then the board will be aware of what other boards or family members that you may be involved with.
And last one. So typically in our board package, when there is a conflict of interest is listed in there, is that where you pull this from to list it in the board packet? Are we having issues with folks not being honest on what they own and not?
Oh, Madam Chair, no, not at all. This is just to bring.
I yield to the gentleman.
Thank you, ma'am. No, ma'am, this is just, again, to bring the conflict of interest statement more in alignment with what the state statutes require for a clearer, more transparent reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, commissioners? Vice Chair?
I want to reiterate, I'm in support of this. I just think it should be involved to everybody. But I do agree with being in line with what the state statute and the transparency and ethics. I just want it more applied more broadly, I guess.
Well, we can take it when we have discussion on the item.
And if I may, sir.
Yes, counsel.
If I may take direction in order from this body in order to develop an opinion, and then perhaps a form, as well as a I want to say down to what level of employee. So probably department directors and then deputy directors, because part of it is that as employees, we are already required to say those things and to be in alignment with the law.
Go ahead.
Sorry, if you look at the MCL 15.231 through 230, which you had cited, I think that could save you some time. I think it only applies to employees who directly report to an elected official. So that would be you, the health director, Kevin, and Dr. Administrator Catlin, and the there's one other one. Oh, all the chief deputies as well from the electeds.
We will certainly take that under advisement and make that part of our report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yep.
And please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions or concerns.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to our next item, some discussion on police fire protection agreements. Let's see if I've got this one. Okay, thank you. So we just wanted to, in light of continuing to update the full board with items administration has been talking on and working through on updates at leadership meetings, we wanted to just have some discussion here about police protection agreements rather. I know we had some dialogue around this previously, so I just wanted to, we want to have dialogue here to have opportunity for board members to provide some strategic discussion and direction for administration on how to approach this. In essence, we have protection agreements with outlying communities through the sheriff's office, and the cost of the services outpaces the contracted payments that we receive. And so over time, we need to, recommendation from administration and support from the board leadership, we need to work over time to bring the actual cost of services and what we bill for those services into closer alignment. So we know that is a burden for the townships. The cost of police protection is significant, and we know that's something that will happen in phases over time. There's also a benefit to the county for efficiencies, an ability to have officers staged in one area to be able to respond to other corners of the county in extreme emergency circumstances. So there's a cross benefit from having the protection agreements. So what we'll be doing, we're working through sort of a first phase of trying to bring it in closer alignment. The sheriff, administration, board leadership, and then municipalities in protection agreements will be sitting down and having some discussions about what the true costs look like, what the payment agreements sit at now, and then beginning to phase in an approach of how we bring them into closer alignment. Administrator, is there some additional context to share with the board? And you're hoping here to facilitate alignment from the commissioners about that strategic direction. Look at the phased approach that we want to take for those agreements, and ultimately trying to get towards full cost recovery, and then provide that policy guidance to all of us as we go through these negotiation discussions. What other context would you like to provide, Administrator?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, and Commissioners. I really don't have any other context to add other than, as you said, we're really evaluating the structure and cost recovery framework as this body knows townships are required, if they would like, is to provide police protective service through their budget, and not on the, I would say, not at the not through the entire support or comprehensive support of the county. We're not responsible for providing service like that to townships, school districts. When we do that contractually through a relationship where there's full cost recovery. As we've evaluated these contracts and compared them to other contracts in the state of Michigan, they're not recouping the full cost. So we are absorbing that within the budget. And a quick example of that is overtime. So we're charging 10% on top of contracted rate for deputies wherever they are on the step scale. We're charging an additional 10%. That's not what that service costs, right? So we're absorbing that within the county budget. If this body, desires to continue to absorb those costs, that comes with a price. It's at the detriment of other services that this county has to provide through all departments, including the court system. So we just have to keep that in mind. Costs are escalating. We have a lot of capital improvement projects to complete. So priorities, as Commissioner Gissler will continue to champion, is important. And so we have to just understand that. And so the impetus of this conversation is to garner alignment in the board's direction, so that way we can work with the sheriff's office to move forward cohesively and with the direction that is provided by the body. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. And, to honor our partners in the protection agreements, we don't fully support the cost. We do have contracts. They are making payments, but it certainly is not a full cost recovery. I know, Sheriff Fuller, would you like to opine also at this time, and then we'll open some discussion with commissioners. Thank you. Welcome, Sheriff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greatly appreciate the opportunity. So we've been through this process a couple times in my 17-year career as a sheriff. There are commissioners on the board here tonight that have been part of these conversations in the past. And what I want everyone to hopefully remember is we look at these as a partnership. 260,000 plus people in the county of Kalamazoo. The sheriff's office has the largest responsibility for personnel to respond to these emergencies or to go out and help, quell the, make sure that peace is upheld. And so we look at these things as a partnership, and I fully recognize that these expenses have gone up significantly over time. And that's why, we're very excited, I guess, to make sure that we work together to produce a product that the residents and people of Kalamazoo County can afford, and one that actually answers their call for service. So we know that any of these contracts that we're talking about, whether they're at the schools, whether they're in, we have one city of Galesburg, or if they are in the townships, those are areas that are recognized and they have a higher need than the general county for a call for service. So we partner with those agencies or those entities to help provide a service that is affordable, one that's preferably not a burden on either part of the partnership, and that it is a fair cost to everybody. I will say that we constantly rely on these townships to actually have the ability to pay for some of these things, because of course the sheriff's budget's not designed in a way that if for whatever reason these townships went away, that those deputies assigned to those townships would still be there. But there's no mechanism behind what we currently do today to upload any number of deputies that would go away from this. We know that generally we're in the areas that are the most busy. I'll talk about Oshtemo, Texas, Comstock. We make sure that these are areas that we recognize are the higher call volume. At the same time, there's a benefit for everyone in the county of Kalamazoo achieved by having the deputies specifically assigned to these partnership townships. So when we have those deputies assigned, say, to Texas, and there is an emergency in, say, Prairie Ronde, which is south of Texas, the deputies assigned there are allowed per our contracts to respond to the emergency, hold down the emergency, and then come back to the township when the general county car is available to go take care of the emergency, take over the arrest, take over the crash, whatever it might be. Same thing with Oshtemo, Texas, any of these places. So when we talk about this, I fully recognize that we want to make sure that the cost that the county is paying is a fair share. At the same time, I want to make sure everybody understands that we recognize the importance of these partnerships, which I'm sure everyone here does, and that we want to do everything we can to not cause these places to have to go without personnel. Again, all of these services I'm talking about, they increase. These townships, the schools have had a high demand for policing. We didn't used to have school deputies. Well, now we do, because rural areas are asking for deputies. We see different townships growing at a rate that wasn't really expected probably 10 years ago. And I really forecast more growth in this county, because I like to have a more of a cheerful disposition about these things, right? I am more of an optimist to make sure people understand, yeah, we're growing. And when I say, yeah, we're growing, but so does the expense. And so it is my job, the team's here, your job, the administrator's job, to make sure we work on those costs and that they are appropriate for the services delivered. We've gone through and broke down a lot of things that I can answer some questions for you, but I just want people to hear a couple things real quick. So the onboarding of a deputy is $43,000. Every deputy, that's just for the onboarding, which includes the interviews, the testing, background investigation, their physicals, the drug screening, the psych evaluations, the police academy tuition, which is something that we now have to pay for, because over time, it has become a deal where you have to pay somebody to go to a police academy. I paid my own way 38 years ago. That doesn't happen anymore. And so the agencies around the nation are having to pay that. On top of that, there's the wage, of course. And when we send them to the academy, they're all making a good wage, because that's part of attracting people to come here to work for the county of Kalamazoo. You provide a good wage with great benefits. The field training associated with that, that's where we get that $43,000. That's not even to talk about the equipment we give them. That is not even to talk about the clothing, all the things that we put on their body to represent Kalamazoo County or represent the profession of being a police officer. And so those are significant costs. And when we talk about the costs that are related, it is important that we do have the conversation with our partners that they know we need them to share in these costs. And at the same time, it's important for us to remember we need to find spots in our cost that we would believe that we would have anyway. So there are some costs, and we recognize that there is a share to what it is. When I started as sheriff back in 2009, that was the first time in many years that we had taken a strong look at it. The prior sheriffs did too. They were, along the way making sure that this was an appropriate cost. 2009, we did find out, and that's why it's so important that we go through these exercises, that the county of Kalamazoo was carrying more of the weight when it came to the financial end of this business. And it was significantly more than anybody at the time would have believed. And that was just a matter of time and economies. So, of course, we changed the structure then. That did cause some disruption because that was more expense than people were expecting. We did it again probably in the last 10 years. And so we're used to trying to figure out these costs. And I'm always open to what the board is looking for and making sure that when you say, here's your dollar, Sheriff, that we spend it appropriately.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I think, we're working through with both you, administration, and finance to sort of cost what the full service looks like so that can be presented with our partners at the municipal level to show, here's what it costs for all the onboarding, the equipment, the maintenance, et cetera, the uniforming, the training, and on, so that we can just have a shared understanding and then negotiate for each other shared responsibility. I do want to also just articulate on, because I think this came up at our last meeting, the changes that occurred within the airport and the way that they're handling security. And it's not directly related to the discussion that we're having, but at the time, the airport, we saw some increase in costs, not full cost translated to the airport, but they were asked for an increased dollar amount, and they felt like that was difficult in the budget, and so they chose to seek another agency potentially to provide the service. They put out an RFP for that, and they received no bids that came forward for contracts besides our sheriff's office. But at that time, they had to bid what the actual cost is for the service through that bid process, which then was very, very unaffordable for the airport, which is how basically we ended up where they're now using a non-law enforcement security service at the airport at this time. Certainly, law enforcement would respond to any location in the community when there's an emergency or a need, but just understanding how we negotiate through, and if we're not being planful to sort of graduate into more shared costs, that it puts service stability in jeopardy. So I'll open to any additional questions. We'll go with Commissioner Wheeler to begin.
Thank you, Chair. What is the current cost share between townships and the county?
Well, so it's designed to work one way, and we have to be clear on the cost itself. So there's no exact answer for that to go across the entire board, right? The schools, they purchase somebody for 75% of the time, but we can't have an employee for 75% of the time. So the county of Kalamazoo through the summer gets the added benefit of us being able to let other people have a vacation, and we have that staff come in to the regular patrol. And so they'll work there. So of course the schools are not charged what the other agencies or departments would be. We have a cost according to basically what services are provided. Oshtemo Township has asked for an increase of services. So we now have a detective in Oshtemo. We have 2 sergeants in Oshtemo because they are by far the second busiest area in the county of Kalamazoo for police services. second behind the city of Kalamazoo. So again, the detective, we have units in that area that are designed specifically for traffic and patrol, because of course there's a lot of traffic out there. And we also have community deputies that are assigned to, I will say, the apartment complexes, the businesses, things like that. So while there's no exact way of saying, you know, a percentage exactly, the same thing with, I'll say, Oshtemo. Oshtemo's changing, I'm sorry, Comstock is changing how they are looking at this service, and everybody pays for it differently because of how they draw a tax. And so they may not need all the same services or all the same level of services.
So, and I would have, thank you, Sheriff, but I also like to have administration opine. Administration, I know we were working with the sheriff's office and finance to garner out costing. Has there been an analysis that helps to identify in a more numerical way rather than a service-oriented way?
No, not at this time, Chair. We're not prepared to opine on that at this time.
Okay.
We are working on it.
Thank you. Okay, so it is still in process, the evaluation. Do you have additional question? Go ahead.
So is it fair to say that currently, for the most part, I know we don't have a numerical, but say townships, for example, aren't paying 100% of the cost of deputies? A true 100% cost.
So again, it's changed, and I hate to have to sound like, you know, I'm not able to give you a good answer. So when I first took over, it was basically, here's your dollar, this is what you guys have to pay, and you get these services I've just described, right? So through the years, the last time we went through this process, we heard from entities that would partner with us that they felt they were paying more of the share than they should. And so we worked out a process where they pay for the wage. And as the administrator talked about earlier, a 10% overtime percent for each individual deputy assigned to those areas, not just as a whole. And then we also came up with a few other costs, like making sure that they had some buy-in to the cost of the vehicles. A fully decked out brand new police car is $92,000. And we, as the county, can't bear that cost all the time, all the way. And so those are things that were looked at in those values, or these dollars that you're asking for in these areas. They also have to pay 100% of the fringe. But with that, the county receives a benefit. And that's why we talk about the negotiation that has to happen. And that's why, you know, I'm, again, happy we're doing this, because now's a real good time to bring to light exactly what these cost and what people expect. In the 17 years plus I've been doing this, every board has changed. Every township board has changed. Every school board has changed. And so again, we answer these questions at the time according to the business at hand.
But I think in light with everything you just shared, that answer is really no, that they're not paying 100%.
Correct. I would always say no, they are not paying 100%.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Additional? Please go ahead.
Thank you.
It's yours.
I'm just struggling because just in my quick research looking at the budget books in 2022, the sheriff's office was $286,000 under budget. In 2023, they were $617,000 under budget. In 2024, they were $922,000, almost $920,000. And so I struggle to then go to townships and say, I need you to pay more. And I understand costs are going up. That's everything right now. So I want to be able to support, but there's also some give that has to happen, right? We know a lot of these items that are, the reason we're under budget is because it's staffing wages that we have planned for that have not been filled. We know that retention and recruitment is challenging in the sheriff's office, but there are things we could probably do that I have heard other counties doing, like take home cars, like safe pursuit policies, and that would increase morale, that would make Kalamazoo an attractive place to come work as a police officer. And so I just want to have this balance, because we have folks who are already paying for a millage that supports the sheriff's office for the courts. I know it's a shared millage, and that's tough. But you know, you're going to have communities that are going to say, we can't afford this, and they hope that when their residents call 911 that they get an officer, because they're going to go without, and without it leaves those people going to general county, and then you're just going to have general county responding.
No, without means those people no longer work for the county of Kalamazoo. To be clear, they don't work for the county of Kalamazoo unless the county decides to take the 24 positions that we're talking about and move them into the general county, regardless of having that money paying for those positions like we do today.
I think we could do that with $923,000 under budget last year, or sorry, in 2024, excuse me.
There's a lot of conversation about that budget, and the conversation will always have to come back to, you mentioned that, we have unfilled positions. But what I'll point out to everybody when it comes to unfilled positions is, today we have, you name a number of unfilled positions, but yesterday this one was filled and this one wasn't, but now this one's filled and today this one's not. So it's a rotating thing that we can't look at and go, well, you're just going to say that these positions are gone, or that we recognize that we're covering these costs with unfilled positions, because they are not a standing object. They are a moving target.
Jared, if I may have one more. And I totally understand that. Like I said, retention and recruitment's a really challenge here in Kalamazoo, specifically, more so. There are folks who come to I know plenty of officers who've gone to Kent County and they really enjoy it. Kent County is one of the few that are pretty well staffed, if not, I wouldn't say fully staffed, but pretty well staffed. And there are reasons for it. I mean, there are morale reasons why they go there. And I don't want to take away from what you're doing, Sheriff, but I think we need to take a real look at some of the things we're doing or not doing, to make this a place where officers want to come work here, because I know exactly where you're coming from. You pay for them to go through police academy, and then they're here for a year and then they bounce and they go somewhere else. Why are they going somewhere else? Because I know our wages are competitive. I know our benefits are decent.
So, Commissioner, I appreciate your input, and I will say that that's not 100% accurate in the way you've described things, but I fully understand that when you're talking to deputies out there, you're going to hear things that make sense to somebody at that time, but there's a much bigger picture.
All right, thank you for your input, Commissioner Wheeler. I see Commissioner Gisler, and we'll go to Commissioner DeLue, and then Commissioner Morales. Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Rick, how many, I know this is probably something I could have been calculating for myself as we go through the years, but it changes so frequently. How many jurisdictions and agencies now have a contractual arrangement for your services from your department?
Right. I'm going to say it's 8, and that's including schools, the city of Galesburg, and the townships that we've talked about, mostly because the townships have been there the longest.
And you're lumping all the schools together or individually?
Individual schools, right. So individual schools have deputies. There's 2 school districts that share a deputy because they recognize the need, but they didn't have the money. And so they share that deputy, and it's worked out really well. And we encourage things like that to happen with any of our partners. We have townships that have 1 deputy assigned to them because that's what their budget can afford, and they recognize the need, so we tried to fill it for them.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeLue.
Hello, Sheriff.
Hi.
Thank you for your, my concern is, are there going to be actual negotiations with the township about the costs, or is it going to be, here's the cost, take it or leave it, afford what you can? And also along those lines, if you negotiate with one township, is it going to be the same for all, or each individual township have to negotiate their own costs?
Yeah, so I'll just go back to what I was saying earlier about each township, each school, each city, like the city of Galesburg. They have a level that they're comfortable with, a level that they ask for. But what we're trying to do is get down to where it doesn't matter what level they've asked for, the price is the same. And that's what we really have. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they understand the benefit of the agreement that we have, and that they are receiving everything they're paying for. So when we talk about negotiations, typically there's really been no negotiations in all of this. There's been conversations, and ultimately we, as the county and the sheriff, come up with how it costs and what we have to get to provide a service at a level. And so that's how we've done it throughout years. And ideally, when we get done with this process here, it'll be pretty much the same thing. If I'm charging, I'll say Texas Township for 2 deputies because they currently have 2, here's the cost. And if you went to Oshtemo that has 11, you would say, well, theirs would be 11 times what one of these guys are. That's what we're working towards. We really have that, but we need to be able to prove that and make it clear to people. Here's the cost. There are counties across the state of Michigan that have addressed this different than Kalamazoo County for a very long time. There are counties in the state of Michigan that refuse to go into townships that don't pay into this. We could never do that because we have a county-wide millage. They don't. And that's why I want to make sure that whenever we're having these conversations and these comparisons, we're really comparing what the service is and not what another township or another county does to the full extent of what somebody would want to point to.
Well, again, okay, so it sounds like to me there is no negotiation of the cost. It's just going to be what level of service are you going to pay for?
So again, there's always a level of negotiation, and if I say that there's no negotiation, that's not 100% accurate. But again, we don't have room to move on some of these costs. That's why the real negotiation right now is me and this board trying to make sure that we come up with a price that you're comfortable with, recognizing the benefit of these township agreements or these school agreements, as well as the cost. And then we go to those townships, the schools in the city of Galesburg, and we say, look, this is the cost we have to have. Our board and we, the sheriff's office, have developed this together, and we recognize that the county of Kalamazoo can't afford maybe the way we used to do it. We now have to do it like this. So at that point, negotiating is a little different than what people would picture. I'm not going to be able to go to a township and say, all right, you pay us for the deputies and we'll do the cars. But the next township I charge for some level of car, right? We have to be consistent across the board, and that's the idea. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. So when you say that, I visited the jail a couple months back.
Yeah.
Are we still facing the same issues of overtime, not being able to be filled, exhausted officers, all of that? Yes?
Yeah, just like, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
So now when you say minimal service, how can the 922K fit into that? And what does minimal service mean? Like, is it service or is not service? Like, what I need to know what we can do and what we can't do, number one. And then a couple months back, we also did some budget changes with the courts, and there were some non-negotiables between their things that they wanted to do. I need to know what your non-negotiables are and how can we make the 922 meet whatever it is your needs are. Because I mean, we know some townships have the money, but if we go into a city like Galesburg, we know that they're struggling to put streets up, right, or fix their roads. So I want to be fair in that, but as you say, you know, you have to be consistent across the board. I think there's different needs across the board, and we need to address those needs specifically for Oshtemo and these other townships. So if it's Oshtemo that has to carry the budget of your deputies and your service vehicles, maybe they could afford that, but another one can't. So based off the 922, to be clear, how can we crack into that budget and meet some of your needs as we look at the rest of the millage dollars?
So Madam Commissioner, one of the things that I hope you guys are able to understand is you're as much of a driver of these things as I am, and that we will work together to make sure that that question you're asking right now, I can't stand here and try to answer it exactly because it's going to lead to another question that I won't have the exact answer for. So the 922 you're talking about right now, again, you're talking about what we did not spend in last year's budget. Is that correct you're saying? Okay.
2024.
Well, pardon me?
2024.
Yeah. So again, we had a more difficult time in 2024 to fill positions. So there were more open positions. 2025, there are fewer open positions. We're sending 5, 7. I think the most we've sent to the academy was 8. 7. It's just 7's the most we've sent to a police academy. We're constantly sending people to the police academy, and not everybody's leaving. That we do have a lot of people that stay. because one of the things I try to talk to the people that do leave, I ask, what was the retirement you're headed to? There is none. So again, there's a huge benefit of staying in this county and working for this county because we do give more to our staff than other counties or other city police departments do. But going back to your 922, we recognize that in my mind, you should never be way under budget because that's almost as bad as being way over budget. Of course, there is a big difference and I get that. But at the same time, we have to do everything we can to budget the right amount of dollars for the services provided, demanded by the citizens that we can provide. And that 922 you're talking about, we're in conversation about these things, about making sure that that is changed and that we are able to have the right amount of dollars to operate the business and not keep coming under budget. Although we will always come, I'm hoping $1 under budget.
Well, Chair, may I? So, I mean, when we're talking way under budget in any programming, including our workplaces, they take the money. If you don't spend what you need from the state, you don't get it back. So we have to do something with this as we talk about, and I'm a data girl, so I would like to see some data. I'm a data girl.
Yeah.
So I would like to see some data surrounded around, do you do exit interviews or exit surveys? Can you provide some data on how many individuals that you paid for that went to an academy?
Yeah.
How many stayed, how long they stayed, so we can get some visuals on that. And again, you know better than us what your non-negotiables are. So I think it would be helpful if you told us exactly what you weren't able. I'm not gonna go cat and mouse because it's turning into that right now. We got 922, we got a millage. I need to know from you, what is your breaking point? How much money do you need to be under budget for you to feel safe? Is it $1 million or is it 500,000? And then we can start working to see how we can support you.
I appreciate your question and we will work to try and answer that for you.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, I think it's important for commissioners to realize this is not the sheriff's directive. This is not his idea to go out to the townships and seek more money. I just want that to be clear. And of the $892,000 or 922 in his difference in his office, we have 9 or 10 million consistently as a county. And that's our job. That's the 9 of us sitting around here. We have $9 or $10 million each and every single year in surplus. One thing that I think is this conversation may be a bit premature, and we have no idea what a sheriff's deputy costs. We haven't gone through and amortized what a cost of a car is. A car doesn't last 1 year. We're not charging $82,000 every year. $43,000 for onboarding. That should probably be amortized over a 30-year period of time. A radio, maybe 6 years, all these different pieces of equipment. I would hope that a school deputy would need a shotgun allocation. All these different types of things that we'd have to put into different contracts and figure out what the cost. And the biggest variable by far that I don't think anybody around this table is considering is what our fringe rate is. That is more than the 10% of overtime. We haven't calculated what our fringe rate is for different various departments in quite some time. And we don't know if we're charging a 51% fringe rate to townships, if that is accurate. 54. So as 54%, we don't know if that is accurate. As we're going to these townships and we're having negotiations, before we go to negotiate people, we should know what it costs. Before we have an idea and going to sit down, we've got to figure out what these things cost and then have the negotiation. Otherwise, we're negotiating blind. And I will say this, I am against a full cost recovery. I do think that we need to have an idea of what the total cost is, but there is intrinsic value of having that partnership with other townships. What that intrinsic value is, and that goes back to Dale DeLue's question, the negotiation. The negotiation happens right here around us, the nine of us, when we decide what percentage that we're going to allocate, what percentage we're going to collect. But we can't get a percentage when we don't have a total number. So until we get that total number, that's when I think we have the conversation of what we ask townships to pay. But having this conversation right here, right now, I think is an exercise in futility.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I'm in close alignment with that. And I think, as we're talking about the amount that we come in under budget, I know that administration is just working to endeavor to tighten in the budget process so we have a full analysis of what our costs are. So we're taking every dollar and using it into the most effective way that we can. If there's $1 million extra in the budget, what $10 million in the budget, what do we do with that then to advance services to the community, to solve problems in the community? And the more that we do that by understanding the true costs of the services, the benefits of the services, that's how we get to that process. And so that's what we're all trying to work through here together. Okay. Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you. One last thing, I promise. I think the sheriff is absolutely right when he came up and said that we need to prioritize, but I think Vice Chair is completely right that it's on our shoulders to make this happen, because there's a bigger picture behind all of this of when is enough enough? We talk a lot about housing. When do we tax our citizens so much that there's no longer home ownership? And so we really have to carry this burden, and it's not really a burden, carry this weight, right? And make it happen. And I think this is where we need to take a step back and figure out what the role of county government is, and to figure out our essential services and house before we start doing other things, because clearly this is coming up again and again. I mean, we know the jail needs major work and has a big CIP behind it. And so I think that this board needs to take a real, I'm pulling to Vice Chair Taylor, this board really needs to take a really hard look at our essential services before we do anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners. I want to respond to Commissioner Wheeler's articulation of the budget for the last 3 years. What happens is that Finance completes a year-end salary pool analysis in October and November to present in December. So fundamentally, some of that data is just not, it's just not as comprehensive. What happens is when we complete that year-end analysis, it's really memorializing the overtime that has accrued. So there is a significant amount of overtime that the sheriff's office accrues each year. And so that is recognized through that year-end analysis adjustment. And so what you see is that we true all that up to make the budget whole, and then we still have the vacancies then to recognize. And that's why the budget is inherently under budget each year. They have vacancies. We trued up the year-end salary analysis or adjustments, and then they also have line items that just inherently come under budget, whether that's in the jail or sheriff's administration. So it's a combination of those factors. And so I just wanted to make sure and ensure this board knows that fundamentally, I mean, due to overtime, the sheriff's office is consistently, and we've communicated that consistently, over budget and overtime to the tune of $3 million, $4 million, which inherently we're completing an analysis to understand where that overtime is coming from, which I speculate is in the township contracts. Most of it likely is, because we do not recoup, we only recoup 10% of the overtime associated with those deputy rates. So inherently, you know, if we're only recouping 10% of the rate, overtime is usually calculated at time and a half. So we're not recouping 100% of the rate. And so that's why we want to provide the analysis to the board to show you all what funding we're not recouping. We're not suggesting that townships pay 100% of all of these costs, obviously. And as Vice Chair mentioned, you know, the cost of the vehicle is $90,000+ a year. They last about 4 years, depending on the usage, right? So we don't need to recoup that all day one. But inherently, I mean, it's not the county's responsibility to provide vehicles to townships. It's not the county's responsibility to provide vehicles to school districts. Those are services they should be providing. But if it's the desire of the board, well, then we need to prioritize our priorities moving forward in other areas of the budget so that we can ensure that other departments can provide the services they needed for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. I think, you know, you said something within that analysis there that I think, you know, is illustrative for us, that there's an assumption about where overtime comes from, but we actually need an actual in-depth analysis of where it comes from. I know just anecdotally from conversations with the sheriffs and with deputies, it's very hard to retain corrections officers within the jail. It's a very stressful environment. The physical plant is challenging. The road patrol positions are much more sought after by the deputies. But actual analysis can help us get to like what really drives it, where is it really at, and ultimately that data helps inform us both how to budget for it and how to solve it.
So Madam Chair, real quick.
Yes, sure.
We do have a breakdown of the overtime for the townships and everything. We have a meeting on Thursday with leadership, the director, as well as finance to go over these costs. So again, these costs that we're talking about, they're coming to you. We've gone through and had to analyze things without having the best data tool available to us. We've gone through and put together, I think, a real good piece of information that you guys will be able to appreciate when we are done with our conversation on Thursday. That'll give more light to the subject for everybody on this board and through the leadership and the administrator.
Thank you. We just want to endeavor to make sure that we're keeping the board in conversation as we move forward through that process. So as you've shared, more analysis is occurring. We'll begin to process. We'll come back and share that information. I do have Commissioner Morales. I want to then move us forward past this discussion. We have other business to attend.
To answer my question, I was going to say, how can we pull it? Is it our HR department? I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a work. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Administrator, Commissioners. Good discussion and appreciated. All right. Let's go to first reading, request for approval of resolution authorizing the issuance of Act 185 financing bonds for Oshtemo Charter Township sanitary sewer system improvement in the amount not to exceed $15 million. We also have a first reading request for approval of a resolution authorizing the issuance of the 2026 capital improvement bonds, limited tax general obligation for the indoor sports facility project. So any questions or comments on those items? All right. Let's move us on now to item 6. We do have a closed session item. Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the Board of Commissioners functioning as a committee of the whole go into closed session pursuant to section 8H of MCL 15.268, the Open Meetings Act, for the purpose of considering a written legal opinion concerning the Michigan Urban Corporation Act.
Motion is made by Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Taylor. Is there any further discussion? Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Chair Strips?
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gisler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler?
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer?
Yes.
Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We will adjourn to closed session.